Kia ora guys, my name is Alex Tilford and welcome to blendercookie.com. Today we have something a little bit different for you. We have a new mechanical brush set pack for Blender. Now what this is a whole bunch of mechanical brushes like rivets, screws, knobs, speakers, you name it. All those really exciting things that we can use to quickly conceptualize all of our hard surface sculpts. So let's go ahead and get started. Now first off, when you download the pack here from blendercookie.com, you'll find three files. We have the brush set pack, we have a whole bunch of normal maps, and a whole bunch of displacement maps. Now we're not going to be going into these maps today, but they are there if you want to use them. But what I want to focus on is that blend file. So right now I have a new blend file open, and we're going to append in our brushes so we can use them. To do this, we go to File, Append, and just jump into that directory. Go to your brush set pack, go into Brush, and you just want to grab all of the brushes. Just append those in, and now they're in the file, ready to go. Alright, so with our plane selected, we're going to jump into sculpt mode and go to select the brush. Now you notice they'll start out all black, and that's fine. It just means that Blender is slowly loading in the brushes, and there is a whole bunch of brushes for it to load. So yeah, let's go ahead and have a play. So first one I'm going to start out with is this angled inset brush. Now this has got to be my favorite brush out of all of these. And what it is, if I just turn off symmetry, might just turn down this sculpting resolution a little. There we go. Camtasia is having a fit. Alright, so this is just a regular little angled inset, like so. Now you see these quite a bit on hard surface models, as it is kind of a very sci-fi little inset. Alright, let's move on to a couple of the other ones here. I'm not going to show you all of these, I just want to give you a good overview. I'm going to crank the strength up here. Here we have a power button. There's a few variations of that. We have a couple of other buttons in here. Notice how I've got to adjust the strength up. One thing that you will notice on your models when you're sculpting is that the strength is dependent on your model. So sometimes I'll use these brushes at a strength of 0.2, or I'll use them at a strength of 5, and they'll give the exact same results. It just depends on the object that you're sculpting on. Alright, so that's those ones there. Let's go through and take a look at some of these inlets. I do like working with these inlets. Alright, so we might crank that up another notch. There we go. So these inlets are useful for anywhere you want to insert a pipe into your model. Like so. And there's a few variations of that. And we've also got insets. Now insets here, we just crank up that strength again. Insets are basically just little insets that you can stick into your surface. So they don't generally serve any purpose. They're merely there to add a bit of detail, add a bit of a sci-fi touch. So you can see with some of these we can, not that high, there we go. add in, just various little sci-fi details. Alright, so that's a whole bunch of insets there. I'll let you guys play around with most of these. I don't need to show you all of them, but I will show you at least one or two of each. Alright, so we've got here rectangles. Now rectangles probably don't sound very useful right off the bat, but what they are useful for, if we just crank that up again, another one. What these are useful for is creating panels. So anything like this, really easy to create just with these little rectangles here. And another thing we can do is we can come down to the texture, we can grab the size and we can crank it up to something like 3, and you'll notice we get a slightly different shape. So that's something that you might want to have a play with and just see what you can come up with. Alright, so moving on, we're going to move on to some screws now. Now, the screws are really cool. You see in sci-fi models a lot, just random screws that have been slapped on, massive hunky screws, get that real juggernaut feel going on. And they are really useful for screws, really. So some of these will look familiar. A lot of these I've taken from some of my favourite sculpts that I've seen online and made brushes out of them. So there's a lot of variations here. So have a play with them, see what suits your model and see what you can come up with. Alright, so we're not done yet, there's even more. Always got more for you guys. Alright, so let's go on to these speakers we have here. Now these speakers are sort of like a bit of an afterthought for adding content into this brush pack. But what they do is they allow us to add in, well, speakers really. I don't actually tend to use these as speakers, I tend to use them as just another inset. Because remember, we can hold down Control and invert these to get a different result. Or you can simply leave them as a speaker. It's up to you, I hope they're useful. They're cool to use anyways. Alright, now we come to the last two that we are going to get into. We have a few different bits of stitching and zips. So if we can grab one of these stitching, and I'll just crank that strength up a little. What this is stitching. So there's a little bit of randomness to it, and use these for hard surface stitching, so mechanical actual stitches that are sort of like staples. You see them on a lot of hard surface sculpts. We have a slightly thinner one as well. Now there is one thing that I'm going to note with the stitching and the zips, which we'll get to in a moment. If you're at a glancing angle, it's going to change the spacing between them. Now this is generally not what you want. Unfortunately, it's just the way Blender sculpting system works. And you'll just have to make sure that you are not on an absolute glancing angle, or it will start acting a little funny. Alright, so let's move on. We're going to take a look at some zips now. I've got 3 variations of zips in here. And these are along the same lines as the stitching, they just create zips. So we have a hard surface zip. We also have a regular zip that you'll see on clothing. And you can use these however you want. Of course, you can see that you've got to have way too much geometry in here for this to be a considered production quality. These are actually just for concepting, as I said at the start. I don't recommend that you go ahead and do a 400 million polygon sculpt using a whole bunch of brushes and then try and friggin' animate it. These are for concepting, for basically doing anything you want, and it gives a nice quick result for your concept. Alright, so that's a quick look through all those brushes. As you can see, there was a lot more. There's about 49 or 50 different brushes to choose from. And what we're going to do now is we're going to jump across and take a look at a practical example. So right here, I have a piece of armor. Now this armor is nothing fancy. It's something that I whipped up in about 5 minutes. But what we're going to do is we're going to add more detail to this. We're going to make it look more awesome. And this is really fun and easy to do. So I'm just going to give it another subdivision level, just so we've got a little bit more detail to play with. And let's go ahead and grab some of these brushes. So I'm going to start with, let's go pick one of these. I want to grab a screw. Where's my favorite screw? There it is. Alright, so I'm going to be using screw 04. If we grab this, we can just go ahead and throw one on the shoulder. Now you can see that with the strength at 1, like we were using before, it's completely changed around the way it's working. So I might want to put this one down to a 0.25. Maybe a little bit stronger. There we go. And what we're going to do is just add in a few screws. See how easy this is? This is the benefits of using pre-built sculpting brushes. Alright. So going through these, let's go grab some insets and grab one of these. And it's about the right depth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add in a bit of detail on the shoulders. You can go ahead and subdivide this once more if you want, depending on how much detail you really want to get in here. Bear in mind I am recording with Camtasia, so it does cut down the performance of my computer considerably. Alright, something like that. Could even invert one over here. Nah, that looks a bit funny. Alright, so let's go ahead and do some more things. Let's go grab some inlets. I want to put a bit of detail on the back here. Alright, so let's grab inlet 02. And I might be able to nope, it's not going to let me. See, I can give it a nice piece going in there, and then another one on the other side. Alright, something like this. And you can see how it's so easy to go ahead and add in so much detail so quickly to this, which is absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to leave it here. I could go ahead and fully sculpt this, but I don't think it's necessary. What I want to do now is show you another thing that we have already in here for you. If you go and file append to that same file, and instead of going to brush, you go into object, we have a few little pieces in here that start with S. So if you grab everything that starts with S underscore, this is what we call a stamp. Now stamps are a little different to your regular brushes, because what they are is they are actual physical geometry. I'm just going to snap them over and make sure they're the right scale. Don't need to be perfect, but just as general. Alright, so what these are is a whole bunch of little high detail pieces that we can just stick on like we would other concept pieces. And the way we do this is we change our method to face, our snap element. Our snap target is going to be median, so that we're going to be snapping where the origin is. Now all these origins are already set up for you. And we're also going to be enabling this align rotation with the snapping target button. So this is really cool. What this allows us to do is now if we press G to move and then hold down Control, it will align it to wherever it is. So we can stick a few of these on. And you can go ahead and grab any number of these. So we can go stick one in there. And one over there. Which is absolutely fantastic. So this brings us to the final part of showing off this little brush pack. What we're going to do now is we're going to actually open up this brush pack. I can double click on that. And let's just take a quick look at what's actually in this. Alright, so here we have all of the geometry that is used to create these brushes. Now I could have just given you guys the displacement maps, which you saw in that directory before. Let's just bring them over. Alright, so all of these displacement maps, these are what actually displaces the surface. This is what controls the brush, along with a bunch of settings for each brush. Now I could have just given you those, but I want you guys to be a bit more creative. I want you guys to go ahead and make your own brushes. So what I've done is I've left in all of the geometry for all of these brushes. Now bear in mind these are not topology correct, or some of them are, but a lot of these are just aimed at getting the final form, such as I don't know, some of them anyway. But have a play with these, see what you can come up with, and make your own brushes. It's a fun process. All you do is you create a little bit of geometry, like one of these. You line it up with a plane that's been UV unwrapped. And under the bake settings, all you need to do is check selected to active and bake out displacement, and then hit the bake button. And what that will do is it'll bake out one of those little displacement maps that you can then map onto a texture and start configuring your own brush. Oh great, so we're pretty much ready to wrap up here. There's just one final little thing that I want to show you, just a little sculpting trick that I find really helpful. If we just jump back over to the starting plane, select this and jump into sculpt mode, what we can do is with any of these brushes, including any of the normal brushes, let's go ahead and grab one of these buttons, so one of these. What we can do is we can go down and change a few of these settings. So a couple of settings I'm going to be looking at. The first one is this drag dot, so the stroke method. This one here, you can change this to drag dot or space. A little higher than that. These different methods allow you to place your brushes in different ways, and all those brushes are set up with a specific way. You're not locked into that way. Some are using space, some are using drag dot, some are using dots, and some are using anchored. Anchored just means you drag out from a point. And they all have their uses. In this case, I want to change this over to anchored. And the reason I want to do this is because if we go ahead and jump under symmetry, we have these radial options. If we increase one of these, like increase the Z to 8, what we can do is we can draw out a whole bunch at once. Which allows you to create some pretty interesting designs. So that's it for now. I hope I've shown you some pretty awesome stuff. Let me know what you guys can come up with this brush set, and any more brushes that you make. So that's all for now. Thank you for watching.